Hey guys, welcome once again to Art Window here at HB Studio. And this is a video that I'd started. It's two parts. This is the second part. It's basically walking you through the creation of this Walking Dead piece that I did with three of the major characters. You got Rick, you got Michonne, you got Daryl. Probably one of my best sellers when it came to The Walking Dead. And in the first video, kind of explained why The Walking Dead has a special place in my heart. And in this video, I want to just walk you through and show you what I was thinking when I was creating this piece. So why don't we jump on in and I'll show you exactly what's going on. So now, if you look at this, this is like what, this is the goal, right? You're done. And now you've got something that you can make a nice print out of, and hopefully the piece turned out the way you wanted it to. And for this one, I was pretty satisfied. I kind of hit the marks that I wanted to with it. And so, of course, nothing starts out this polished, but what I wanted to do is I'll put a kind of a tissue over this and explain to you guys exactly kind of some points about composition, right? So a lot of times when I start with something like this, I want a piece to have a focal interest or a center of interest. And I thought Rick here would be a very good candidate for this. And this is a device that I use quite a bit in my pieces. And it was a compositional kind of a principle that I was taught when I went through school. And it's called finding the eye of the rectangle, right? And so basically how this is done is you can draw a diagonal line from corner to corner, and I did that up here, the top right down to the lower left, and then you draw in a secondary line like here that comes in here, and then there's a 90-degree that happens here. So you want this to be a 90-degree angle, right? So this and this here. So after doing that, basically, and the idea behind this is, let me move this eye up to where it is that naturally your eye will rest in these spots, right? So, where that 90-degree is. So, and I think it just comes from, you look at a rectangle, your eye kind of gravitates to certain spots, and that's the theory behind this, and I think it holds pretty true. So I felt like that would be a good place for it. What's interesting about this is I was looking at it, you can do different, places. So like here, I brought my angle over to here, right? And so this 90-degree angle is in here, right? But as you can see, you could also have a kind of a center of interest down here where Michonne is. And I thought it was interesting because this creates kind of like a secondary spot, right? And I thought, oh, that's kind of working because Rick up here is the main one, and then if you go over to here, you actually can see that you could also have done it over here. So I kind of felt like it reinforced this triangle idea that I was going for. Like your first instinct would be to come up to here, Rick, and then this could be a secondary zone, and this could be a third. And it's sort of, the idea was I wanted to have this triangle with Rick being at the apex of the triangle, right? Because he's the center of interest. So I think all of that worked out really well. Now, of course, you don't know this right away. So, but I just wanted to explain to you that's sort of how this all came out, and the theory of utilizing these spots in the rectangle, right, where the eye naturally rests. But I can show you now exactly kind of where I started out. So here, of course, is the final, right? And then basically it starts here. It ain't pretty, but it is kind of funny. Like, this is the kind of stuff as an artist you never have in your portfolio, but it's all necessary stuff. It's like planning, and I always look at it like if you're going to build a house and you don't have a plan, it's probably not going to work out too well, right? So I will do a lot of these thumbnails like this, and then I'll go back over them also, and just to kind of give you an idea. I think I started out with this one. I did this one first, and I was thinking, okay, I want to have Rick there, and I already had this triangle idea coming together, and I felt like, okay, I want to have text here, text there. Felt like this was just a little too spread out. It wasn't organized enough for me. And then I went into 2, and then I thought, okay, well, what if I introduce a graphic, a box that, you know, Rick's head could come out of, the gun could come out of. Then I have text up here that his head could go into also. And then I put Michonne, and then I put Daryl down here, and even have them sort of breaking out of the box also, but also have spaces for the walking and the dead down here, the type, right? And then the box contains the characters, and then I can come in and put in some kind of a background. And I thought, yeah, I like that, right? So this one was, I think down here was just an attempt to do number 1 again, and it just wasn't working for me. So I like 2. So I thought I'm gonna go with 2. And, you know, so again, so you guys, you know, have an idea, you know, that's basically, you know, in that number 2 little thumbnail has all the information that this one has. But I you know, you don't know that right away, but I saw this and I thought, okay, that's what I'm going to go for. So then I started scouring the universe looking for good reference for the 3 major characters that would work with my thumbnail, right? And so moving on, here's a drawing that that I did of Rick, okay? So you can see it a little bit better. And, you know, this is one of the things too, you know, a lot of times, you know, as an illustrator doing this, you don't have the luxury to have the studio give you these beautiful references. You just don't. And so a lot of times I'm finding these pixelated little things on the internet, and I'm going, oh, that looks kind of good. I'll use that as a reference, and I'll do my drawing from that. And that was kind of the situation with this one here. Is you know, I found this reference, which, you know, it's not very great, but I liked the look that Rick had on his face, and so then I didn't use this as the reference to do this drawing. But now here's the thing too. This is why it's so important to study anatomy and be able to draw, because it you know, there are just moments where you need to be able to draw. And so as I was looking at this, I knew that I wanted to use this as the reference, but I also knew that his arm, in the position that it was, with the gun being more of a profile, was not going to work with my composition. I just sort of knew it wasn't going to. And so I knew that up here, if you see, this gun is way more 3/4 than what's going on down here. So I knew that I was going to have to make some adjustments in the drawing in order to have, you know, what we have here in the final, right? Which is, you know, if I was to go with this, the reference down here, then basically what would be happening is the gun here would be off the page, right? And it just messed up my whole, you know, compositional scheme. It just didn't work. So basically, I knew that what I had to do is just pull his arm over and the gun over and be able to draw it in 3/4. So that's why it's important to know how to turn things in space and do the drawing. So I worked all that stuff out, and that's how the drawing came up. There's another thing that I use a lot, and this is a great one, because sometimes you'll have a reference and it looks really good as a photo, but you'll start to accept it, and when you break something down into a drawing form, it's very simplified, right? So basically what that means is it's a great way to check your accuracy as far as your drawing goes, right? So for Rick here, if I do this here, let me show you. And I do this early and often, and I always tell people, students, if they're asking, or anybody who's looking for advice on becoming better at drawing, is to flip early and often, right? Flip your drawing. It gives your eyes a different vantage point, because a lot of times you'll fall in love with what you're drawing. It starts to look good to you, and that's when you know you need a second pair of eyes, or you need to flip it. And so I felt like by flipping it, I felt like the drawing was still pretty solid. I felt like everything was, pretty okay. And but it doesn't always happen that way. You'll do a drawing, and believe me, this will happen. You'll think, oh, it's looking great, it's looking good. You flip it, and you're horrified, right? But it's a great way to diagnose a problem, because the way I look at it, at this stage, you need to make sure that the drawing is sound. This is the foundation to your building, because the color and all of the painting and all the things you do on top of that is just icing on the cake. So you got to make sure that you're solid in your underpinnings, so that the piece will come out looking good. So anyways, that is the process that I went through with the 3 different characters. And as you can see, I can start to add these guys in, and these were all line drawings, and this was starting to come together, and I felt like, okay, I like these poses, they're dynamic, I like the way the 3 guys are, and I'm going for that triangle idea that was in the thumbnail. But at this point, I started to think, okay, now what about this graphic idea? So I threw this box in. I thought, okay, yeah, that's working. And then it was sort of this idea of like, okay, what about the text, right? And so I was able to throw that in, and I kind of was a little bit worried about Michonne's sword, that it was going to cut the composition in half, but I threw it in there, and I thought, it looks okay, and I felt like it helped to draw attention to this tag. And I love this saying from The Walking Dead: "Kill the dead, fear the living." Right? And I just thought that was just a really cool tagline that they developed, and I wanted to include that in the poster. So I kind of felt like that was okay, And then, again, it's one of these things that I always say composition is like, 80% hard work and sweat, and then 20% magic. You just don't know when something's going to work until you see it, and you go, yeah, that's good. So those are always great, happy accidents when that happens. And so I thought, yeah, I'm going to keep this, right? And at this point, I really started to think about, I went back to, okay, I want this 70s, this grunge feel, and this is the stuff that I really love, is like once you get past the mechanics of making sure drawings are sound and everything, now, how do you bring emotion to the piece, right? And so at this point, I was like, okay, well, I've got these 3 characters. They're kind of like the alpha dog, or Rick's the alpha, but these guys are the guardians. They're the ones keeping everybody alive in this insanity that's the apocalypse, and zombies running around trying to eat them, right? Just craziness, right? So I thought, okay, what am I going to do for this background? And so I just felt like you gotta go zombie, right? So I went ahead and I threw in all of these, different zombies, because they're just in this sea of chaos, right? And so I had a blast drawing these zombies, and it's kind of funny because I would joke about it, but if you look in here a little closer at some of these guys, just a lot of fun, like, and when you're trying to nail a drawing of a celebrity or an actor, it has to be dead on. I mean, it's I think they say in shooting, if you're off a little, you're off a lot. It's the same kind of thing. You have to be so careful to get the likeness to really, just a little bit off, and you lose that likeness. But it's like when you're drawing zombies, it's like really, who cares if his eye is like on the other side of his head, you know, or he looks like he was hit with a bat, because he was. So that was kind of fun. It was like a vacation for me, but kind of drew in all these guys with these, you know, terrible expressions and everything like that. But again, trying to bring in this whole idea that here these characters are who are trying to keep everybody together, everybody alive, surrounded by this incredible chaos, right? And but that's sort of the anatomy of this. And then, of course, from here, you go into the painting and color choices and everything like that. And that's really, again, to me, kind of the fun part in the storytelling is, and I'll go back to the final just to talk about the color, is if you go back to this here, you know, there is this, let me do this here. There is, you know, so like I said, you sort of have this triangle idea that's going on of these three characters, right? And these guys are the main defenders of, you know, this group of people who are trying to survive in this incredibly difficult situation. And so there was this box, and so again, in that color theme of that 70s kind of grungy feel, I had them, you know, bathed in this like really golden light, but in this warm light, because they're alive, right? These guys are alive. And then I had this border here too that is like red, right? This thing here, and so these warm colors, right? And so I kind of felt like the red signified blood, you know, and because they're warm-blooded, they're alive, surrounded by all of this, right? This green decay, which is the zombies, you know, death surrounding them, right? And so when it came time for color choices on all of this, and again, I really like contrast, right? So the red here just screams, you know, off of, so the red here screams in comparison to the blues and the greens that are around it. So it's like, you know, and I always try to work that in my piece, you know, cool, warm, soft or hard edges, contrast. It's just one of those things that I think is inherently interesting to people. And so basically, I felt like the reds really popped off the greens, because you're doing a complementary color, you know, like another one that's good is like violet and gold, but green and red like really can work well too. And I had this transition from blue to green on the background, because I wanted to keep those colors kind of, you know, and some of the green stuff to me is decay and all of that. So I love that's kind of storytelling part of it, right? And so the whole idea is that this red line, this box that they're in, they're the thin red line. You know, they're the thing keeping everyone safe and protecting everybody from this chaos that's outside of them. So, you know, and it's always really cool when you're at a show and you explain this to somebody, and they really do get it. And I remember talking to some lady I was talking to, and she said, you know, I can, you know, you explaining it just sort of like just explained to me what I was feeling when I was looking at it. And I always feel like that's a huge win, you know, because it really is about, you know, and I've said this before in some of my other videos, I think good art is good communication, right? And I always get a kick out of it when some of the nuance stuff that you put into a piece, people feel it. They feel it and they see it, and you know, it's really gratifying when that happens. So, but anyhow, I think that's about all I've got for this one. And I'm going to be doing more of these, so I hope you guys will tune in, and I hope at the very least this was entertaining, and at the most, I hope you found it valuable and something that you can use. And I just one more note about the part one of this. If you didn't see it, please check it out. But I think the important part of part one was that I think the message really is, if there's something you're passionate about, there's something that you maybe it just gives you life to do it. Don't hide it. Get it out there. You know, whether it be writing, whatever your thing is. You know, and I've found as an artist, you know, it's been really kind of a journey for me to get my stuff out there. You know, and it's been a very positive one. So I would just encourage you, if there's something that you really want to do, go for it and do it. So, all right, hey, keep creating, and I hope that you can join me again for Art Window. Take care. Bye-bye.